Hi there, you're highly welcome to English with Teacher Dixon. I want to delve into a very important aspect of the phonotactics of English language, as well as the summary of this particular topic. So do well to take cognizance of what I'm going to show you today, because they are very pivotal. All right, let's begin with the phonotactic pattern of clusters. In English language, we have consonant clusters. So what are the rules behind the clusters of consonant sounds in English language? It is not all consonant sounds in English language that can cluster. Some of them cannot go in pairs. You cannot have them together, but you can have some. Hence, we have rules governing the consonant arrangement or combination in English language. So I've listed out the examples here. For the onset, that is at the initial position of a syllable, we can have these combinations of sound. So these are possible. Examples, what examples are play, street, quick, fly, etc. So do well to go through all the sounds. Look at the combination of each of them, how they go in pairs, and try to combine the sounds we have here differently and see what you're going to get if they are possible in words. So we don't have other possible combinations apart from this combination. So mostly the plosive sound you combine with the liquid sound, or we have the alveolar sound like s, combined with plosive sounds or nasal sound. So we have others like the combination of the plosive sound and the semivowel. So these are all possible combinations in English language as long as the onset is concerned. Remember, the onset refers to the consonant sound or sounds at the initial positions of a syllable. We also have coda clusters. The coda is the arresting consonant sound. In other words, the consonant sounds we have at the end of a syllable. Hence, we can have all these possible combinations, like the nasal sound plus the plosive sound, the alveolar sound plus the plosive sound. So all these are possible. And, st, nd, mp, nk, sk, sp, st. So we can have all these combinations. Examples here include help, hand, mask, facts, and many other words. So we have the clusters at the final position of this word, unlike these ones, play, street, quick, fly, where we have the consonant clusters at the initial position. Again, let's look at phonotactic restriction based on distribution, based on different distributions of sounds. What are the possible arrangements we can have? The first one is that the sound, the glottal sound, only occurs at the beginning of syllables. You cannot have this as a coda, as you cannot have the sound as a coda in any syllable. You can only have it as the onset. That is the initial consonant sound. Like in the word heart. Heart, we have the sound at the beginning. Same thing applicable to hand, house, and many more. You can only have the sound at the beginning of a syllable, not at the medial position or at the end of a syllable. Number two, the ng sound, that is the voice velar nasal, occurs only in codas. Codas means the final consonant sound. So we can only have the ng sound at the end of a syllable, not at the beginning of the syllable. For instance, in the word sing, sing, we have ng at the end, sing, king, and so on. So we have ng at the final position and not really at the initial position. Another sound we have here is the z sound. Z occurs rarely, mainly in the middle of or final positions of borrowed words. You mostly find this sound at the final position or in the middle of borrowed words. For example, we have measure, je. We have it on the second syllable, that is the initial sound on the second syllable. Z. Then we have beige, beige. We have it at the final position here. So we rarely have this particular sound, and it's also the sound we have in genre. So it is a rare consonant sound as long as English language is concerned. So note these three sounds, that the sound is only possible at the beginning of a syllable. The ng sound is mostly possible at the final position, and then the z sound rarely occurs and is mainly in the middle or final position of borrowed words in English language. Okay, I'd like us to consider the summary of everything we've done under the phonotactics of English language. In other words, the rules governing the arrangement and combination of sounds in English language. So the first point we made was that phonotactics refers to rules for possible sound sequence in English language. Two, English syllable structure is made up of three possible onsets, then a compulsory nucleus, and four possible coda. In other words, we can only have three consonant sounds at the beginning of a syllable, but the vowel sound is compulsory in English syllable. And then at the end of a syllable, only four consonant sounds are possible to form the clusters. Hence, we cannot have more than four consonant sounds at the final position. Likewise, we cannot have more than three consonant sounds at the initial position of a syllable. Moreover, the three consonant sounds that are possible at the initial position are optional in a syllable. In other words, we can have a syllable without any onset. Likewise, the four consonant sounds that are possible at the final position are equally optional. Hence, we can have a syllable without any coda. Consider an open syllable, for example, as in car. In car, we only have the onset and the nucleus, which is the vowel sound at the middle. Right. So that's why these three C at the beginning of this structure are enclosed in bracket. The same thing applicable to the 4C at the end, whereas the V, which indicates the vowel sound or the nucleus, is not enclosed in a bracket to indicate that it is a mandatory or obligatory item in a syllable. Next, we have onset up to three consonants. Restricted pattern. We talked about the restricted pattern of the consonants at the beginning of a syllable, that it can only begin with this sound followed by any of the voiceless plosive sounds like or t. So that is the restriction concerning the onset. Again, we have the nucleus. We said that the nucleus must contain a vowel or syllabic consonant. The only situation we can have a syllable without a vowel sound is where we have syllabic consonants. In other words, a syllable that is made up of only consonant sounds without a vowel sound. Moreover, we have the coda up to 4 consonants, but not all combinations are possible. Though we have the coda to be made up of 4 consonant sounds, it is not all the consonant sounds of English language that can cluster to form these 4 consonant sounds at the end of a syllable. Hence, the need to know the combination of sounds, which we've done in this lesson, that are possible as long as English language is concerned. Again, note the distribution restriction, as certain sounds limited to certain positions. Note the different sounds we have that are limited to different positions. For instance, the sound can only occur at the initial position of syllables. Then the n sound can only occur at the final position of syllables, and then the j sound rarely occurs. And also, it is only in borrowed words that you can have them at the initial position and even at the final or medial position. Hence, all this should be put into consideration as you study sounds. It will be very easy for you to understand the different arrangement of sounds as long as the English language is concerned. I want to believe you've learned a lot from this lesson. Do well to subscribe to this channel, and moreover, like, comment, and share this video. Thank you very much.